Hello everyone. For today, we are going to continue our discussion in personal development, and today we are going to know more about holism or holistic development. So, last time in our discussion about personal development, I told you that we rarely rely on a single school of thought in understanding personal development. So, we need to be able to marry, we need to be able to integrate the perspectives of various schools of thoughts in various fields. So let us begin. So when we say holism, it emphasizes the totality of the person, and we cannot achieve holism if we're only going to look at one aspect of the person. For example, a course on physical development is not the same with a course on personal development because in physical development, you only look at the physical aspects of development. That's why there are some aspects of development that you were not able to take into account. That's why your picture of the person is incomplete. In personal development, we want to be holistic as possible so that we can understand how does the person develop in different aspects, may that be physically, psychologically, emotionally, and others. We can use the concept of holism in this example. For example, Socrates argued that the person is dualistic by nature, meaning we are made up of a body and a soul. And because of him, there are a lot of theories. There are a lot of theories who argue that we are made up of a body and a soul. Hence, although these two are different, we need to see the connection between them. So we believe in dualism, such as male or female, good or bad, yin and yang, and life and death. However, in our belief about this dualism, we also emphasize that although we think that these are separate, we should also remember that they are more connected than we think. For example, there is this theories in psychology, his name is Carl Jung, and Carl Jung believed that a man has a feminine side and a woman has a masculine side. So, although you are a male, to understand you holistically, we must look at your feminine side, and the same goes for female. So, the same goes for good and bad, of course, the yin and yang, and the life and death. We also have what we call gestalt, and the proponents of gestalt can be seen in the upper part of this slide. And gestalt is a German word which means whole. So, this is related to the concept of holism, and gestalt is very known for the phrase the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. When I was a student, I used to ask the question, what is the difference between the whole and the sum of its parts? And then eventually I learned using this example. So for example, you have your own car, and then what we did is that we separated the pieces of the car. For example, I got the wheels, the steering wheel, the windshield, the wiper, the hood. I separated all of them from each other, and then one by one I carried the parts from outside the house to the lobby of the building. Eventually, you have all the parts that you need in that room. You have all the parts of the car in that room, but it's not a car. Even though you have all the parts of the puzzle, if you don't know how to put the pieces together, the puzzle will not make sense. So the same goes for the car. Even though you have all the pieces, if you don't know how to put them in a way that they will do their function, then we won't be able to use it as a car or it won't function as a car. So the same goes for the human person. Yes, you have different parts, the past, the present, the future, the unconscious and the consciousness, the body and the soul, the mind and the heart. But in order for us to look at you holistically, we need to know how these parts interact with each other. Now, in personal development, here are the different schools of thought that we're going to look at. Like we're going to consider physiological aspect or your physical attributes, your cognitive aspect or your intellectual functioning, your psychological aspects. The psychological aspect or how you think, how you feel, and how you behave and how they interact with each other. As well as social aspect, how do you interact with other people, and maybe not all of you are aware of this, but we have what we call spiritual aspect or your beliefs, your values, and your virtues. Spirituality is not the same with religiosity because some people are spiritual but not religious. Because when we say religious, you follow a certain set of rules in order for you to express your faith. For example, the rule in your church is that you have to go to a service every Sunday in order for you to express your faith. However, in spirituality, that may talk about a connection with God, or sometimes in spirituality, there's no need for a God. For some people, they are spiritual in a way that they connect to themselves, sometimes to nature, sometimes to their values and to their own philosophy. So there are different aspects of spirituality. Now, in personal development, you must be aware about the distinctions between them. Between these concepts. First, we have what we call feelings and emotions. And when we say emotions, the basic emotions are happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, and disgust. So these are the basic emotions that we have, and you display them depending on the type of situation that you encounter. And don't feel bad if you are sad, because there are situations that trigger sadness, and there's nothing wrong with being sad in situations that will make you sad. There are instances wherein you will feel anxious. For example, you have an exam. It's okay to be anxious, because it's understandable that if you're going to have an exam, it's all right to be anxious, and there's nothing wrong with that. So that's the first step in becoming a better person and having a better quality of life. You need to accept that you have emotions for certain situations, and you should not always force happiness. And like what we say here, feelings are related to variations in arousal. Sometimes you have strong feelings, for example, when you're angry or when you are so happy, and we tend to express them in movements as well as in attitudes. Other than that, we have what we call attitude. So your attitude are the thoughts, feelings, emotions about another person, object, idea, behavior, or situation. So an attitude is the result of an evaluation. So it's like or dislike. What's your attitude towards the movie? Do you like it or do you dislike it? What's your attitude about protest? What's your attitude about laws, about rules, about a certain candidate, about a certain person? Do you like him? Do you dislike him? Do you agree with him? Or do you disagree with that person? Also, we have what we call behavior. And when we say behavior, this is the manifestation of an attitude that an individual has. For example, you like mathematics, then your behavior is that you're going to study well in mathematics. But if you don't like mathematics, then what's your behavior? You're going to avoid studying mathematics. So they are more interconnected than you think. I want you to be aware of this theory. This is the theory of Albert Bandura, and in his theory, he talked about periodic reciprocal causation. And what he's saying is this: the personal factors are related to behavioral factors, and behavioral factors are related to environmental factors. And look at this: there are two-headed arrows connecting the circles to each other, meaning that one factor may affect the other. For example, personal factors may affect the environment. At the same time, the environment can also affect the person. For example, there's a child crying, and then what are the personal factors? This includes your feelings, your thoughts. If there's a child crying, then your feeling should be your thought should be I need to help. And what's your behavior? You're going to help that child. Another example is this: if your parents encourage studying, then you're going to have positive feelings about studying, then your behavior is that you're going to study. At the same time, behavior may also change the environment. For example, you don't like the environment. You're an introvert, you don't like bars, you don't like clubs. Your behavior is that you want to change your environment by going outside the environment so that your feelings will be better. You will feel good that you're no longer in that noisy bar because you are an introvert. Let me end this discussion by talking about Schwartz's theory about the basic human values. And first, before I talk about this illustration, I'm going to define them one by one. When we say self-direction, that is the independent thought and action. So your ability to create, to choose, and to explore. That's related to stimulation or the search for excitement, novelty, and challenge in life. So for example, if you want to find a job that will challenge you, then that's a search for stimulation. Also, we have what we call hedonism, or the search for pleasure and gratification. We also have a search for achievement or personal success, as well as power, or what we call social status or prestige. Other people may search for security or safety, harmony, stability in the society, while some may want to pursue conformity or restraint in actions, inclinations, or impulses. And this is related to tradition, meaning you respect the tradition, your commitment, and acceptance of the customs and ideas that is shared to you by the people around you. Also, we have what we call benevolence, which is preserving and enhancing the welfare with whom one is in frequent personal contact, or preserving the welfare of the group that you belong to. For example, your barangay or your city, you're contributing to the town. And lastly, we have what we call universalism, or understanding, appreciation, and tolerance and protection for the welfare of other people and of nature. So other than that, we can also classify these values into bigger umbrellas. And let me begin with the upper right. We have what we call self transcendence. So, the two values under self transcendence are universalism and benevolence. Earlier, I defined them. And in my own words, when we say transcendence, it's like knowing beyond physical existence. For example, you know that there are other things more important than yourself, and that can be your country, that can be nature. Okay, and we also have conservation. When we say conservation, that is like respect to tradition, respect to, for example, for Filipinos, we respect close family ties. We don't try to change tradition. We also have self-enhancement, or our attempt to make ourselves look better. And we have openness to change, which is our tendency to look for something new. And this theory is very interesting. Why? Openness to change is the opposite of conservation. If you want to be open to new things, then how are you supposed to preserve tradition? At the same time, self enhancement, making yourself feel powerful, is the opposite of self transcendence, because it's about knowing beyond physical existence, or helping others, preserving the welfare of the community. So you have to choose, what is it that you value? Is it others or yourself? Is it change or is it conservation? So basically, our human values may contradict each other, and that's how we differ with each other. It's because we endorse different types of values, and when we clash with each other, it just means that we are trying to pursue different values, and our ideologies are not agreeing with each other's ideologies. So that is it for this discussion, and I do hope that you learned a lot, and thank you for listening.